Hello, everybody, and welcome to the sharpest college football podcast brought to you by LeanTossup. My name is Robert, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host BuckMetrics. We're doing this on Tuesday night with Maction or Kazaction, but we're doing it on Monday night this week, and there's literally an NFL game going on. So, how are you? Are you watching the NFL game this week or no?
No, I'm not sure what you're talking about. What's an NFL?
Yes. Yeah, you're just full college football, aren't you? You don't really
I
watch the
am.
NFL. Do you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, to get into detail that nobody really cares about. The Super Bowl is kind of a tradition for my wife and I. We'll just go do something like watch a movie for the first half, and I might catch the second half of the Super Bowl, and that's about all the NFL I will watch during the season.
That's a smart, like, that's the perfect time to go watch a movie, to be honest. Like,
It
there's
is,
no
yeah.
one. Like, there's no
No,
one in the mall. I mean, you could go rob a bank. There'd be no one in the bank too, right? Like, this is,
yeah.
yeah,
It's an interesting crew that's at the movie theater. I can just say that,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what? So week 11. Little bit of a boring week, kind of. Most of the stuff kind of went exactly as expected. But still some winners and losers, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, nothing really. I enjoyed it. The morning especially was kind of fun. The Penn State game. But as we went on, the middle part of the day was kind of whatever. And then I don't know. Your Ducks and my Trojans put on a game that was weirdly competitive, but not all that interesting. I would kind of say, or interesting at times.
Yeah, it was. It was a. I describe it weirdly as like a bigger Oregon win than I expected, but also a closer game than I expected, both at the same time. Like early in the game, like I mean, obviously with the first two passes of the game, it was like it literally like those passing plays. I'm not sure if you've ever played Madden, but like literally, I've done that in Madden. When you like throw it and you get behind a defender and you just deke them out and you run it like 80 yards, like that play happens in like every game you play in Madden. You could do that in every game. Like you see that play so often, but you never see that in the NFL or college. But like that happened within two passes, and I'm like, okay, and like this is going to be a blow. But then USC did make it competitive, and it's funny because the game was like less competitive because Bonix is now the favorite for the Heisman, which is great because I have him at like 6-1 for that. Didn't get him at 30-1. I should have doubled down at 30-1 a couple weeks ago, but I didn't. And then um, at the same time, I feel like because Caleb Williams kept it competitive, he maintained his lock as number one overall for the NFL draft. And I feel like had he lost that game, had that just kept happening, had it just been a blowout, I feel like Drake May would be the favorite to go number one overall. So he increased his stock somehow by covering the spread against Oregon. So that's shout out to them. So that's pretty good.
Number one of what draft? I'm kidding. Just another what is the NFL reference? Okay,
Yes.
who won the week?
Yeah.
Yeah, by this picture you can see the big winner this week is I forgot to look if there's in Canada, but in America we call it Supercuts. Do you have it there?
We do have Supercuts, yes. Or I think they
Yeah.
call it First Choice Haircutters, but it's probably the same company, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's who won. Also, I guess kind of also taking the weekend for me was Kirby Smart. Georgia just boy, they're getting better at the right time. They kind of have that look and feel of the old Pete Carroll teams. Not to make it the USC podcast, but they just really came on strong in November, and man, they're answering the questions with a lot more certainty now. Really, really impressed. The defense still isn't as awesome as I had thought, although I'm probably prejudiced by the fast start that Ole Miss had. If that defense gets back to what I thought they would be going into the season, man, it could be not even close in the playoff. But yeah, impressive weekend by them.
Yeah.
Nothing to
I,
add. You
I,
just
I
okay.
yeah, no, I'll agree that like and this is the thing. This team has looked not great at times. I would even say last week it did even not this 2 weeks ago it didn't look good
Mm-hmm.
against Missouri. They almost lost that game. but then they come out here and then they dominated. Who? Wait, who? Ole Miss. Ole
Ole
Miss.
Miss. Yeah.
Sorry, I got confused a couple of SEC teams there. But no, they look really good against Ole Miss. And again, this week they've got Tennessee. They put away Tennessee, then they get to play Georgia Tech. Win that game. Actually, no, they are going to Atlanta now. They will be playing
Yeah. That's
Alabama in the SEC championship game. That's set now because Missouri beat Tennessee, so they will be playing Bama. But like, this is the thing, right? And it's going to be really funny because that game could like potentially be an elimination game, functionally in a play-in game for the 14 college football playoff, which is
yeah.
funny because next year, or if it was a 12-team playoff this year, that game would be playing for a bye and obviously
Yeah.
bragging rights. But this year, it's like no. This is the game and the thing is, it's sad because like there is a very strong argument that both Alabama and Georgia should be, but with only four, they can't. But if there was 12, they would both. And you can even make an argument for like Missouri potentially in there as well. You could maybe
Yeah.
argue Missouri should be in a 12-team playoff, but unfortunately we won't get that this year, so that's kind of sad. But no, like this team is good, and I think them and Bama is going to be a very good game. I'm very excited to see that game in a couple weeks. I'm unfortunately I might have something going on at that exact time, but we'll see. But I will be watching that game. So I will try to catch as much of that game as possible. But yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of that game.
I gosh. You just might have preemptively given yourself a Narduzzi there for a future date. If you
I
can watch that.
I had no control. I had no control over
Okay.
this, but I'll
Very fair.
hopefully I'll see what I can do.
Okay. I also have UNLV, man. I did not see this coming. I was really mad when they fired Marcus Arroyo. I didn't like the Barry Odom hire. Um, and look, they're tied for first in the Mountain West. It's going to be a little surprising at this point if they don't make the Mountain West title game. Um, they're doing it on both sides of the ball too. I think I mentioned in a prior podcast that their offensive coordinator was the wide receiver from Pitt, who then went to Texas. It was his departure that prompted Jordan Addison to leave Pitt for USC. Um, I think that Brendan Marion is his name. Will probably be on the short lists of very sharp Power Five head coaches looking for an offensive coordinator, or Group of Five ADs looking for new coaches. Um, and I don't know, not to crap on the UNLV party, but I don't know how much longer this kid's going to be in UNLV. Their offense is tearing up, and this is with a new quarterback too. This isn't like he inherited a really awesome roster. I remember UNLV was one of those teams that when I was going through the Phil Steele in the off season, you know, there was kind of a rebel diaspora across the FBS universe. You saw a lot of UNLV players on depth charts of other programs. So really good job by Barry Odom, and got to mention Brendan Marion.
Yeah, UNLV, man, this was a nice game. This was a Friday night game. I stayed up to watch this game fully, um, partly because it basically it led me right into a League of Legends World Championship semifinal game. So that was a nice little segue into that. But no, like this team was really good, and I bet I saw the 4.5 and I didn't touch it, and then for some reason I wake up on Friday and I see it's -3, and I'm like, what idiot did this? This is why would you? You're gonna only have to lay 3 now. Only have to lay up half of a touchdown. I'm like, okay, that's so. I just pounded that and not even close. Again, never in content. Like it was 21-0 at the end of at the end of the first there. Okay, they came back a little bit, but then UNLV packed it on the end. Like just not even close. Like it's just very easy play, and this is a good team. And again, I think we'll talk about Air Force a little bit more later, but like this team could win the Mountain West, like straight up.
Yeah.
Like this team is not bad at all, and this team is good. And like Boise State fired their head coach. San Diego State is not good. Fresno apparently has decided they're not good anymore. Wyoming has completely collapsed, even though they only lost to Texas by like basically 10 and then a pick six. Like I don't understand what's happening with this mountain. Everything this Mountain West is just a mess. I don't even know. It's got like it's big Pac-12 energy here, but no, yeah. UNLV might be last team standing, and they could win this thing.
Yeah, yeah. For as much as the Mountain West has confounded me at times this season, really fun, interesting season out there. So out there,
Mm-hmm.
what am I talking about? I'm in the middle of their footprint. All right, you've got a different winner here. Is it the
Yeah,
guy in
well,
the back with the awesome beard?
I mean that guy is definitely winning, but no, the thing is like like I mean, as much as we say Georgia, and to be fair, this kind of perfectly bookends it, right? Like Georgia and Bama are both doing really well right now. Like, and it's funny because we had our doubts about Bama. I think
No.
we keep trying to bet against them and we keep losing, and it's funny because the books keep needing Bama's opponents, and Bama's like no. And it's funny because you and I were both on Kentucky. The book said like they only had that line at about 10, and then like we need Kentucky here, and and basically the people, the public was all over Bama, and the public was handsomely rewarded for that. And Jalen Milroe, again, we keep saying okay, he's good, he's improving, but my model thought that he would struggle against the Kentucky defense. He did not. 3 touchdowns, 230 yards, a bit low on the passing yards, but I think he had a day. He did some stuff on the ground as well. Like Jalen Milroe is like surprisingly good, and I think this is probably going to be. He's probably going to like open next season as like plus 800 to win the Heisman or something. Like he could be the Heisman winner next year potentially, right? And
Yeah.
I
Whoops.
think
Sorry.
that's the. Oh, I think that's what's going to be very interesting here. I think I don't know if this is their year or not, but I think between him and Georgia, I think this could be a very very close race for the like. It's again, it's sad that the winner is going to go on to the college football playoff, and the loser is going to get nothing. They're going to go off to play in
Like this.
probably the Sugar Bowl. There's literally no way to know which bowl that's going to be. There's literally
Yeah.
no way to know. Anyways, they will go off and play in some New Year's Six bowl. Um, and yeah, I don't know what it's gonna be. It's a fun thing to watch to see this rivalry between these two teams. They're clearly the top two teams in the SEC at least right now, and we had our doubts about Bama after they lost to Texas, but this team is completely different than that team that lost to Texas, and it's completely different than that team that almost lost to USF too. It's just like this
Yeah.
team keeps getting better and better every week, and I mean like I kind of think if they're dogs to Georgia, I kind of think you have to take them. I think like I can't like I think they've played a much tougher schedule. They've had a much tougher road to this. I think you have to take them over Georgia. But again, we're still a couple weeks away from that. But man, though, I am excited for this game. I probably won't be able to catch the start of this game, but I'll definitely be able to catch probably the second half of this game. So I'm going to be excited for that. So
Yeah. And kind of an upset that we both had SEC teams. That's not usual.
yeah,
Although I did have a Mountain West team in there for good measure.
yeah,
All right. Who lost the week? I mean, come on here. What
yeah.
are you doing, Dana Holgerson? I don't know where to start here. All right, Cincinnati, congratulations on getting your first conference win. I mean, Cincinnati has had a rough season. Holgerson is a former offensive coordinator. Look at this: 241 yards, 3 interceptions, 3.6 yards per pass. What on earth is going on there? I mean, this is the same team that basically, debatably, don't want to say they should have beat Texas, but you know, they had a great opportunity to, and it just seems like they're in the don't give a crap division of the Big 12 anymore. I guess seems like that to
Yeah.
me. What a horrible job.
But no, you said it exactly right. This team could have beaten Texas. This team was a couple plays away from beating Texas a couple weeks ago, and then they get destroyed here by Cincinnati. And like it's not even close. Like outgained 360 to 240. Um, I mean, first downs almost double the amount of first downs. Like it's just it's rough, and again, it's kind of what we say here with like that bushy middle, right? Like how many times would we say, okay? Now I always thought it was gonna be like, oh, you're gonna get plus 7.5. So turns out you get like plus 3. So I think the spread in this game was like 3, but apparently, like in this and in Oklahoma State this week, like just bet dogs in some of these games with these teams that are like in the middle to end of the Big 12. And again, we're going to see this next year too. It's just like none of these all these teams are like basically the same. Like they're kind of good, but kind of not good too. And it kind of really speaks like this is going to be the problem with this conference going forward next year, right? Because there's always been one team that's like whenever the Big 12 was made the college football playoff, there's always been one team that's been able to rise from the ashes and basically be undefeated or have one really weird loss somewhere that people are like, yeah, whatever, we'll just ignore that, and then they get to the college football playoff. But like usually that was Oklahoma. Oklahoma's gone. Sometime I don't think no Texas has never made the 4-team college football playoff, but they made the 2-team college football playoff one time.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be gone now as well.
They made it twice. To be
They made it, oh,
fair.
that's right. They made it twice. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember the Colt McCoy one when they played Bama and lost. But there have been a couple other times. I think there's one other time they made it. But like that, and okay, obviously TCU made it last year, and I think a couple years. No, they screwed themselves because they did the co-conference champions thing. But
Yeah.
this is the problem. It's like you take away those top teams, and now everybody's more balanced. You're going to have a bunch of random losses. And okay, it's a 12-team playoff, so it's going to get easier to get into it. But still, though, there is still the risk of the Big 12 eating their young, and I think that's what we're going to see next year. I think you're now throwing in Arizona State, who could just be randomly good, and I think they actually could be kind of good. You're throwing in Utah, you're throwing in Kansas, which could be good. You're throwing in just and a lot of these teams now. This is to the expansion teams. They're going to start getting better. So yeah, the Big 12 is going to be the Big 12 is the Big 12's own worst enemy starting next year, right? And again, even Texas, right? They're not getting the nod for who I didn't give them the nod for who lost this week. I had other more pressing people who've lost the week, but still though, like Texas has now in the last 2 weeks both won both games by a field goal. They have now won both 2 straight weeks by 6-point margins, and that was before they destroyed BYU, which BYU was not good. So that's kind of beside the point. But like, this is concerning. This is if you are like again, and that was against Kansas State, an okay team, and TCU, not a good team, right? You've now won that 2 straight weeks by 6 points, by 6 points combined. Not good. That is concerning. And again, this week we'll probably talk about spreads later, but like that one is there's something. I think Texas is not going to get through this unscathed. I think there's more carnage in the Big 12 awaiting them. So we'll see.
2 points on that. You jarred loose a memory. Now, granted, it was with their backup, although technically this other team has their backup. Iowa State won at BYU 45-13. Texas beat BYU at home 35-6. So.
Yep.
More impressive margin margin / venue by the Cyclones than Texas in that case. Interesting, especially as portends to, Texas's upcoming schedule, as you said. Mm-hmm. One little thought exercise. So we take Texas and we take Oklahoma. If we take them out of this year's Big 12, and then we have whoever's left between Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, those 3 are all with 2 losses. Would you take the champion of that or Liberty straight up head to head? If you just had a no money line, just, your best G5 against your Big 12.
I think
I'd probably go with Liberty.
I'd go Liberty, but Liberty.
Kansas State might manhandle them.
Maybe. I think Liberty would be the dog, and I'd be taking them as the dog. Like, there's no way they're going to be like it's going to be like 6.5, and I'll take Liberty there.
Yeah, I'd take them. I'd take a money line. I think.
Yeah. 100% money line too. Yeah, but
Kansas State is a little rough sometimes, and that they could just out masculine them, to use a horrible non-verb. But it would be interesting to see. All right. This.
Yeah.
You've just got to be kidding me. I mean, if only UCLA had a head coach that understood how to coach offense. Oh, wait. I mean, you lost to this guy. And not to crap on Mr. Bourget, but look at these career stats. Nice completion percentage, but look, I mean, when you're completing 70% and it's for 7 yards per attempt, they're clearly, you're playing what they call the pickleball offense when everything's just like right in front of the line of scrimmage. They're not allowing you to do anything. And this season, 6 yards per attempt, 6.4, and 4 interceptions and 1 touchdown. I mean, come on. Apparently, I only saw some of this, but Arizona State ran the swinging gate a bunch of times too, and they just learned it this week. Like literally, they Googled it this week. Um, you know, sorry, the quarterback problems at UCLA are not an excuse. I mean, you lost to Trenton Bourget running the swinging gate. I mean, I don't get it. It's just horrible look here for Chip Kelly, man.
Yeah, apparently we're now starting to hear some rumors that this might be the end of that era, with the Chip Kelly era. Which, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Again, it's weird, right? It's a combination, and it's funny because I was very tempted to bet Arizona State this week, but they got it crushed last week, and then I was like, you know what? And then I was trying to figure out who their starter was, and it was Trenton Bourget, and I'm like, he's just not
Yeah,
that good. I don't know if I wanna, but nope. Apparently, that was the plan was the play was to apparently take him in the 10 something point spread that he had. It's crazy. It's a combination of two things. I think kind of Chip Kelly has. I kind of think he's kind of from a bygone era now, and I think some of this. I mean, it was the bygone era of the 2000s. I think you need to upgrade. Like the times have changed with some of the stuff, and they're able to dominate worse teams. But I think some teams have gotten the better of them, and I think Arizona State has. I also think Arizona State is a surprisingly feisty team for a 3-7
yeah,
team. Like watch out for them next year when they actually have a quarterback and not these
yeah,
three people who kind of play football sometimes. I don't like watch out for this team next year, but at the same time, come on, UCLA. Like we loved this team, we loved UCLA, and they have let us down horribly. Like, and this defense was elite, and this offense, if this offense was just okay, it would be fine. And again, this is UCLA. This isn't like this should not be hard. You're not recruiting in the middle of nowhere. You're not recruit. You have millions and millions of dollars. You probably have an NIL collective somewhere. Like this should not be hard. There should have been a replacement for Dorian Thompson Robinson, um, and there just wasn't. And I think that's ultimately on Chip Kelly and the coaching staff. And if they can't, like Arizona State has like they're on their third or fourth quarterback now, depending on which week you're talking about. Like
hmm
if you're being out resourced at the QB position by Arizona State, like what are you doing here? Like this should not be happening. And again, not to diss Arizona State, but when you're up against one of the top teams like UCLA, like this should not be happening. You should have a quarterback and you should be able to beat Arizona State. But and it's not even close. It's like this was not a close game. UCLA basically scored something at the end just to make it within 10, and if not, it wouldn't have even been within 10. So, like, it's just crazy. This should not have
yeah.
happened.
Reminder. I mean, this is going to seem just unbelievable. But after the non-conference part of UCLA's schedule was done, they were one of the few teams that had a top 10 apex quarterback, and they were top 10 in rushing offense. I mean, you say that now, it's like what? That doesn't even compute. I mean, that doesn't sound like UCLA. Then that morphed into, oh my gosh, Dante Moore has a really high interception percentage. Just keep an eye on it. To now, it's just just it's almost Jimbo-esque, and just a disaster that just a quarterback that can't take care of itself, and it just propagates itself. The other thing too, I had heard some of that, like Chip Kelly might be in trouble here. These idiots just renewed his contract in March, and they don't have Texas A&M kind of money. So I don't know. Maybe they do it. Maybe they're excited about their almost full share of Big Ten money that they don't have to share with Cal. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll be convinced when they actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, I need this explained to me.
So you don't know what this is?
No.
This is I don't know what the name of it is, but it's the Air Force graveyard. So whenever a plane is decommissioned from the Air Force, they take it to this random field. I believe it's in Arizona,
It's in
and then
Arizona?
basically
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they basically keep it's either I think I'm fairly sure it's Arizona 'cause it's somewhere in the west. It's either Arizona or Colorado or
Yeah.
something, but I think it's Arizona because it's warmer temperatures. And then basically this is where they
Oh,
keep
okay.
all
I
the
see.
planes there, and then they strip them for spare parts. So that part isn't relevant to the picture. It's just Air Force here. Yeah, that what is happening? Um, I I don't understand. I'm
Yeah.
still at like
But
I was watching that game. I There's no words. It's Hawaii. What are you doing? Like, and again, even last week, like, okay, sure, we somehow I don't even, who did they lose to last week? It was like someone that was like somewhat
Army.
excuse. Oh no, Army. That's
They
right.
had
That was bad.
the six turnover game.
That's right. So that's Army, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. It's a service academy rivalry, so theoretically something. Okay, fine. But it's Hawaii. Now, okay, yes, you had to fly to Hawaii, but you're Air Force. You should have advantage on flying. I don't know, but like
Oh
this is
boy.
the thing. It doesn't make sense. Like this is Hawaii, one of the worst. I mean, it is not a great team. It's an improving team, but it's still not a good team, and they're really bad at defending the run as well. And you're telling me that you get absolutely destroyed by a Hawaii team, and it wasn't even close. Hawaii destroyed them. I I am, and now it's some. I think they're still in first. I think they're still basically first or tied for first, so they still have a clear path to the Mountain West Championship game. But like your shot at New Year's Six Bowl is gone,
Oh
so
yeah.
now you're
No.
going to be playing a lower tier Power Five team. But you'll probably destroy them because, of course, you will because they won't care. So, but like your shot at winning the Mountain West is in trouble. And again, we like last year the same kind of thing happened, and we're like that's not going to happen again. And then for a lot of weeks it didn't happen until this week when it happened again. And I I don't even know. I don't know. This is I still I just have no words. I
Yeah.
don't even know what we've watched, what happened. I got nothing.
It's interesting because I was struggling for words too as you were just I was going to try to help you out and I don't know what to say. I still don't.
Yeah.
Interesting though. So here's they are tied for first and this you're going to get some really weird game theory kind of stuff here. They have one loss as does UNLV who we also talked about. UNLV is at Air Force this week. And then Air Force is at Boise, who just fired their coach. Um, does Air Force kind of take the Boise win for granted and maybe just go, well, this is kind of weird to say, vanilla even for Air Force against UNLV and save the good stuff for when they play UNLV the second time? Kind of weird. We saw this a few years ago when Boise and Fresno played in the last regular season game, and then they played again in the Mountain West title game, and like neither team kind of wanted to win the finale. It was kind of a scrimmage because neither team had a shot at the New Year's Six Bowl. That'll be interesting to see. Um, the other thing that I noticed, and I didn't see the game, but it didn't seem. I'm just going to go by this and just kind of infer that it doesn't seem like Hawaii really owned the terms of the game. And I bring that up because this game started well after the Oregon USC game, and it ended well before it, which just kind of
Mm-hmm.
tells me it was like an Air Force kind of game. Like they kind of
Mm-hmm.
controlled the tempo, but not the score, which is weird. Is it just I don't know. Nothing makes sense. Um, the other thing too, going back to this, I didn't know this is the airplane graveyard. This was actually referred to in an old movie. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I'm over my career in movie references to you. I think I might have mentioned this in a prior pod, maybe even last year. Have you heard of a movie called Can't Buy Me Love? Or
I don't.
Can't Buy Me Love?
Maybe.
It's set
I
in
think so.
Tucson. It's
Ah,
it's
okay.
Patrick Dempsey's like 15 years old or something in the movie, just for reference about how long ago it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a little bit of a tie-in between this and football. Is that it's set in Tucson. When Patrick Dempsey is on a date, he actually takes her to this graveyard to see the planes, and it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then this girl's ex-boyfriend comes back for the holidays, and this is what's great in the tie into college football is this guy Bobby, who used to be on the football team at this I forget which high school it is in Tucson, but apparently it's just great to say out loud. He went to Iowa to play quarterback for Iowa, which is just
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Iowa went all the way to Tucson to get another Spencer Petras slash whatever kind of horrible guy, Deacon Hill, fill in the name. I don't know. Sorry for the long-winded whiner, but it's there's a really good college football tie into the
Mm-hmm.
graveyard here.
Yeah. Actually, one more cool thing that's completely unrelated to college football about the graveyard. This airplane graveyard actually saves U.S. taxpayers like hundreds of millions of dollars a year because when they take the old parts, there's basically like an extensive operation here where they basically like if a current plane has a problem, they know which old planes to go to get that spare part. So
Mm.
they slowly like there's like hundreds of people employed here. They slowly strip down these old planes for parts and then they use it with the new fleet. So I don't know. That's a kind of cool thing for me. I don't.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Not gonna
Okay.
pay down the like $1 trillion a year deficit though, but
No.
that's beside the point. But it's still kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What would interest rates be without the graveyard? I guess that's the way to frame that question.
Yeah.
All right, I'm doing a victory lap here. We had San Jose State just inexplicably run into the my top 10 of the group of 5 teams, and I framed it with much skepticism, and I said I don't know. We'll see how long this lasts. And they just gave an absolute clubbing to Fresno State that like
Yeah.
wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. So this is a victory lap on behalf of my model, not me. I wasn't really brilliant in this one, but my model just nailed it. And again, out of nowhere, didn't see this coming. I think I said exactly that. Like, all right, here's San Jose State. I don't know. We'll see.
I had Fresno favored, but like by less than I thought I was going to. And then San Jose State started opening up the scoring, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna come back. I'll take the +6.5. Just nope, not even close. That didn't happen. I looked foolish on that. I don't even know what happened. I'm just still just like I still like I watched it happen, but I'm confused as to how it happened. I mean, it's this San Jose State team has done so many weird things from getting blown out like I think week 1 or week 0. I think it was week 0 against Oregon State, and they destroyed Hawaii in almost like like even worse than Hawaii laid down in Air Force, which is insane. And then now they just destroyed Fresno State, a team that has dominated many teams so far. Yeah, again, I don't know how this team is good again, but they are. So, yeah.
Yeah, they lost to Air Force. Yeah, they won 4 in a row. It looks like. Is that correct? If I'm looking here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing makes sense here. Anyways, that was interesting. All right, you've got one here.
Yeah. Yeah, victory laps, because we said we were saying last week that if the college football playoff were to happen, Tulane would be one of the 12 teams in the college football playoff because they're the highest non Power 5 conference, basically team. And we said that's a joke. It should be Liberty. Tulane isn't that good. They won last week by 3. Well, they were 24.5-point favorites against Tulsa at home, and they won by 2. They're now even doing even worse. And the thing is, it's funny because I looked at this line too, and I was like, should Tulane be like massive favorites? And my model was like, nope. I think my model was like Tulane -24, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna play it. But what? Tulsa is horrible. What is happening? Tulsa's that you're making a bowl, and you would theoretically be in line to make the 12-team college football playoff. How? Like, if Liberty is not ranked ahead of them by the college football playoff committee tomorrow, I don't know. We've got to like stage some sort of protest or something. Like those climate protesters, I think they did something to a painting. We gotta do something like that. But it's like specifically about the non-ranking of Liberty. Gotta do something.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I don't get it. On that topic, shout out to Bud Elliott. Don't know if you know who he is. He's on the CBS Sports Cover 3 pod. He's, I don't know, one of the few sharp people who is on a big platform like that who I really respect, not as a reporter, but as an analyst. And he's got to be very frustrated, I'll just say, considering the people that he works with and the level of discourse that he has to undergo. But he did his own, like, hey, this is what my 12-team playoff would look like. And he had Liberty getting the G5. So shout out to Bud. At least somebody else out there gets it. It's not just you and I screaming into the sky.
There are others, yes.
Yeah. Okay. My other victory lap is, and I'm not celebrating this man losing his job. But buckle up because I'm going to be very self indulgent here. I want you to tell me anybody who before the season was even close to calling this like I was. What did, and I don't want to like, interrogate you like you're on the stand here as a hostile witness, but do you remember what I likened the Boise State program to before the season? It was, do you remember?
I'm trying to
It,
remember. It was a really good comparison
it was
because
a building that had serious structural defects
yeah.
last year, and all of
Hmm.
a sudden, hey, the building's fine. Although you can't see any improvements, it's just like no, it's fine. And it is, I didn't see it. And then after about week two, I started to call them dead team walking, dead money in the pool, and God bless Andy Avalos. We'll talk about him a little bit later. I don't know if it's his fault, if he just wasn't right for the job, whatever. But your boy nailed it almost uniquely so in terms of Boise's going to have a rough season. So um, I I went to the gym earlier today, so I don't really have the flexibility right now to pat myself on the back, or else I really would. Great job by BuckMetrics. I'll just verbally give myself the pat on the back here.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a good call. It's I will say it's weird because Boise's looked better in the last couple of weeks. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter though because they were still eliminated. But like they beat Wyoming, which apparently doesn't mean anything anymore, and they destroyed New Mexico. And it was kind of weird because I was like it. I think I when what was this? Was this came out Sunday, right? Yeah. I think I woke up on Sunday and I saw they fired Andy Avalos and I'm like wait a minute. And I was like, oh, did they not cover the spread against New Mexico? And like, did they cover it? I'm like, then why'd they fire him? He covered the spread. I'm like, oh, he just wasn't like I was still like groggy, and I'm like, oh, did he didn't cover the spread against me? I said, oh, he covered the spread against Mexico. Then why'd they fire him? Oh, it just was not good. Like it was a weird moment for me, but yeah, but like no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah,
I think maybe
clearly
everybody,
covering the spread didn't save him. Yeah,
well, no, everybody had the over like me. I think that, and they missed it by like 2 points, and it
yeah,
should have gone way over. So,
yeah.
yeah,
But no, it's due. And again, this team has kind of had some problems since. I mean, last year and again we thought we thought they were not great last year. They replaced their offensive coordinator, so they led this kind of midseason resurgence, which good for them. And then people were really high on them this year. We said no because again, as the problems mentioned, and then they're gone. And I think clearly you could attribute any success they've had to that defensive coordinator that they had, and not Andy Avalos. They've been struggling since Josh Heupel left, and I think this is now where this is now coming. This is now coming due, and I think
yeah,
that's where we're seeing the outcome of this.
yep. Okay. Um, yeah, what I missed, I've got Narduzzi yelling in my ear on this one.
Yeah.
I feel so dumb because I made a point before last week, and I don't remember if I said it to you or I texted it to some friends. I said, "This is the week where the number of plays." I probably tweeted it. This is the week where the number of plays really dries up. The number of plays goes down, and I've said this. I know I've said this last year. At this point, when there's a play, there's probably something that's going on that's not in the model. And we both had Louisiana. Counted it as a dual model play, and I didn't do my due diligence, and I didn't realize that Zion Chris, and this is not from out of nowhere. I mean, I think about a month ago, I actually said, "Hey, this is my highest rated freshman quarterback in all of FBS." Um, so there it was, just hiding in plain sight, out with a broken fibula. That's why it was supposedly a playable line that my model didn't catch. You probably didn't have him out in your sims either. So
No.
yeah, bad job by me. I actually, and it's not like I'm not looking. Remember, I actually asked you, hey, Gabbert's out for Miami of Ohio. Be sure you have the backup in there.
Hmm.
And that actually worked out okay. But no, I get yelled at by Pet Narduzzi for just not doing my job on this one.
Hmm. Yeah. No. Yeah. And the thing is, the best thing is, so I didn't see it until it was too late. I bet it, and then I was like, oh shoot, it's actually someone different. So, but then I was like, oh well. And I looked up the guy. The quarterback wasn't bad, so I thought maybe there was a chance. And they had a chances to cover the spread. They just didn't. So that's a problem. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay. Speaking of Narduzzi, did you see this picture when it happened during the
Yeah.
broadcast? I mean,
This. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, just come on. I, I'm, I'm just finding it increasingly hard to believe that James Franklin's background is as an offensive coordinator. That offense was so bad, and not just like the execution, just what they were. I don't even know if you could say what they were quote trying to do, because it almost seemed like they were trying for a replay of that 2016 win over Ohio State, where they just kind of keep it close and then hope for a blocked kick that they can turn into a touchdown. It's literally like just hope the other team screws up worse than we do game plan. And it
Hmm.
was unwatchable, man. It was so bad. Um, you know, big credit for the late touchdown when it really didn't matter, and you actually tried to do something a little bit out of the, outside 8 yards past the line of scrimmage there. But Jesus, that was
I,
just a brutal watch.
unfortunately, it mattered to me in my alt spreads. That was very painful
Wow.
because I had the -9.5 and the minus 13.5, and that covered both of them. So that was a dagger for me, and I feel bad. That now it's clearly that was the right side. But it was not rewarded. So, but it that happens sometimes, right? But no, I mean, it's we had the right side on Michigan. Um, it's interesting. It with the now with the suspension, which is a weird sort of half measure. They're like, well, this doesn't really punish Michigan that much, but also it doesn't really not punish them either. So no one is happy about this, and I feel like they realized no one was going to be happy about it, and they're like, that's what we want. We want Michigan mad, but not that mad, and we want everybody else mad, but not that happy. Because if they're happy, then Michigan's going to be mad that they're happy. So they're like, let's make no one happy, and just like, and it's such a weird thing that it's like he's only suspended for regular season games, not the postseason games, which is weird. But it's kind of like they're like, okay, if we suspend Harbaugh from everything, then there's no chance they could win, and then that Michigan would be really mad at us and have like potential grievances against us in some way. But if we only suspend him during games, that's also not great. But like theoretically gives Michigan a chance to win those games. It's like it hurts them, but doesn't hurt them as much as suspending Harbaugh, which is again a dumb way to do this. This should like you when you're trying to do this, you shouldn't be like, well, how can we only penalize them a little bit? It's like, did they commit? Did they break laws? Yes. Then okay, we punish them. That's how this is supposed to go. That's how rules are supposed to be, right? And this is going to spark the whole debate. Not now, but in the future, this is going to spark a whole debate about governance and like, okay, what like, and because this is the thing, right? And you there's arguments about, and as I'm sure are near and dear to you, Reggie Bush and the Heisman. But to you, I don't think you particularly care that he got that. I don't even know what the outcome. Oh yeah, Pete Carroll got to go become the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, so
Yeah.
that's worked out well for him. Nothing really happened to Reggie Bush. He now gets to be in Wendy's commercials. Um, and you vacated those wins, but I don't know. I go on YouTube. I get to see USC winning the college football championship. So that seems like they won that to me. I don't
Yeah.
like so
No,
like yeah.
the one thing was the scholarship limitations, which were just absurd. I mean, at the end, we had basically less players than like an NFL team would play with. So it was in typical NCAA fashion, God bless him for, punishing Sua Cravens, who was, 7 years old when these violations were committed. And he had to play like, 90 snaps a game because he had no backup at safety. Great
Yeah.
job,
But
NCAA.
like that's the point, right? It's just
Yeah.
like at that point it doesn't matter. The out like basically the games that were influenced by the cheating or illegal conduct, like that's happened, and like it doesn't matter. And I think this is the Big Ten trying to do something because they recognize that like, hey, if we don't actually do anything, then Michigan, like even this season is tainted, and it's gonna basically make it seem like we don't care. Which like we kind like I think it's like it just by not doing anything you taint the season, but you still have to give Michigan a chance. I don't know. It's just I think the more we see this, the more it's becoming clear that NCAA governance is not the answer to anything really, but specifically football, and I think we're probably gonna get to that very soon for basketball too, where it's just like other independent things that focus solely on football and not the billion other things the NCAA has to think about.
Yeah.
They're far better to do this, right? And I think that's where we're heading with the governance. But anyways, specifically about Penn State, I don't know. The problem is you can't get rid of
No.
Franklin. Like you
No.
can't. That's too much. Like it's not as much as the Jimbo Fisher buyout, but also you don't have oil money, so it's not. It's functionally it's worse than that, basically equivalently. And it's like the problem is it's like the other end of it, the Fisher one is the fact that it's like if Jimbo Fisher went like 10-2 every year and only lost to like Bama and Ole Miss, say, right? If he only lost to those two teams and beat everybody else, then you're like, okay, that's fine, right? And you know what? I will try it again, and maybe we'll just get, oh, we're just one recruit away, right, or something. But for Fisher, it was far more games, far more egregious losses. For Franklin, it's those two teams. That's it. It's Michigan
Yeah.
and Ohio State. And next year, they don't have to play them. I think they only have to play one of them, I believe. And like, you know what? Maybe one of these years he'll finally break through, and then it'll actually work out for them. And maybe they'll make like, I think they're getting closer. They're getting closer. Like for Penn State, there's been a lot of years when it's been like there's been a lot of very iffy games for Penn State. There have been a lot of years where there's been a lot of like I mean there is the just think the Illinois game where they were 19-point favorites and lost to a 2-point conversion in overtime. And there's been a lot of games where it's just like I don't think this game should be nearly this close, but usually Penn State pulls it out in a squeaker somehow. But this year, I mean, like, look, they destroyed Iowa, I think 30-0. They've had some really really good games. It's just Penn State and it's just Michigan and Ohio State they can't get over that. And we thought maybe this year would be the year,
Yeah.
but it turns out
I,
not. Right? It's not this year. Maybe it'll be next year. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But and again, the interesting thing though is this: if this was a 12-team college football playoff year, which to be fair, next year is going to kind of be like a run it back year of this year, to be honest, especially for Penn State, because they're still going to keep Drew Aller. They lose a couple of pieces. I think they lose an offensive tackle and some other stuff, but nothing that's irreplaceable per se. And Ohio State, they're probably also going to be running it back with Kyle McCord as well. Like,
mm-hmm.
if Penn State wins their next two games, they would be going to a 12-team college football playoff. Would that not be a success for Franklin then? Would you not be like, yeah, and they could possibly win the first round game if they're not playing Michigan or Ohio State, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to then at that point. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, because people will just say, nothing really changed. Four things here working back. Just going off if Jimbo went 10-2 every season, I'll just kind of complete that sentence a different way. I would say absolutely the weirdos at College Station would absolutely claim a national championship for one of those seasons. I have no doubt. They absolutely would. Looking at this picture right here, since my team's going into the Big Ten, do I need a striped pair of overalls in cardinal and gold? Is that going to be required?
Maybe. I don't
Okay.
even know what that would. What colors would the overalls be? It would be like what, black and then
No,
that.
for USC it'd be just cardinal and gold. Just the
Yeah.
yeah.
Those actually look pretty
maybe,
cool.
Maybe I'll do the Pac-12 preview in my cardinal and gold striped overalls.
Yeah.
We'll see. Two other things. A very practical question. I thought about this at the gym today. So apparently Michigan's hotel is 8 miles from the stadium, and Harbaugh was not allowed to coach. I think that typically the team will go from the stadium on a road game directly to the airport and then fly home. Where did Jim Harbaugh watch the game? Was he in his hotel?
I guess. Was he just sitting there watching this game on a 32-inch screen?
Is that not an interesting question?
Yeah, actually, that is. So, like, was he just sitting there on? Well, no, checkout time would have been.
That's the thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
we're here another day. Sorry, sir. No, somebody else has your room, Mr. Harbaugh. They're gonna pretend they know who he is. Yeah.
Like he's just sitting there with a bag of chips on the hotel room bed.
Well, they not even like, nope, sorry, checkout time is noon. You have to watch in the I guess the hotel bar or a sports bar. I, I,
I feel like that'd be a security risk if you're in Penn State.
that's a really nice way to put it. Security risk. Yeah, I'm dying to know this, and this is where I think the national reporters, let us down a little bit. I would love to know that.
Is Harbaugh allowed to do press conferences?
Yeah, yeah, he did one today.
Oh, okay. So we got to
Yeah,
DM a national reporter and ask them like, hey, where did Harbaugh? Ask Harbaugh where he watched the game. it's
yeah,
it's so it's so funny because after the game the I think I didn't see the clip of it, but I did hear the audio, but I heard the clip that the coach of Michigan was like crying, saying like, "Oh, this
yeah.
game means so much for us." It's like Harbaugh is like a couple miles away. Like he's fine. He's not dead. He's okay. He's like still. You're gonna see him tomorrow. Actually,
I
you may
know.
see him once you
Yeah,
walk out. He might be right there at on the bus at the stadium. He might be there. Like it's not Harbaugh's
yeah,
okay,
he's
guys.
literally
He's
right
he's
there. Yeah, no, he wasn't run
he's
over
okay.
by the rules. It wasn't a literal run over by the rules committee. And then I just want to go back to Drew Aller looked so good earlier this season. Um,
Yeah.
it's are you a Seinfeld fan at all?
I've seen some episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the play calling just, I mean, the big game just significant shrinkage. Just, I mean, they just shriveled up. It's like, where is
Yeah.
the guy that like earlier in the season was just killing it? Now they shriveled up offensively, just turned into nothing.
Yeah. It's yeah. I got nothing. I don't. It's such a weird like.
Yeah,
And again, he looked really good. Like he looked
yeah.
really good early on, and maybe they need. This is probably gonna be like we fire the like. This is gonna be like what Texas A&M did last year. They brought in a new offensive coordinator. Maybe that's what they
Oh, they
need.
fired
I don't
him.
know.
They fired him yesterday. Yursich.
Oh, they did.
They
Yeah, yeah.
did.
So that might
Yeah,
be okay. That they're gearing up for that. I
I
mean, to be
know.
fair, those were they only Penn State only plays 2 games a year against
Yeah.
Michigan and
Oh
Ohio
yeah.
State. Every other
The
game is a
season's
scrimmage.
over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. All right. This is you. This is a
yeah.
good
So
picture,
this
by the way.
is this is a picture of Mike Gundy cringing, and like last week you held Oklahoma to 23 points. This week you let up 299 passing yards on 11 passes. 11 passes, almost 300 yards to John Reese Plumlee, and then you let up another 290 some odd yards rushing on the ground. 200 yards to some guy called RJ Harvey. I've never heard of this person before. Maybe I should have. I don't know. Probably not. What? I mean, here's the thing. It's funny, right? Because we sat here a week ago. Actually, it was not a week ago. It was 6 days ago because we did this on Tuesday. But whatever. Not the point. We came here last week and we said, it's weird. Both our models like UCF this week. We're like, yeah, that is
Mm-hmm.
weird. UCF is going to be like a dual model play, wrong team favored. I was this wrong favored. This wasn't even close. Like
No.
the model understate. Like the spread was 3. We had -3. That wasn't even like they won. What was it, 30 something to 3? I don't even know
45
what
to 3.
happened. Yeah, even worse. I don't even know how this happened. I am so confused. As like I get the fact that like Oklahoma State looked good. They looked like they had turned a corner. Maybe they had kind of figured this out after they got rid of Spencer Sanders. Apparently that is not true. Apparently UCF figured out how to beat their offense, which Oklahoma, which has an potential NFL quarterback, did figure that out. So there's that. Yeah, this one. I mean, here's the thing. It's cool because we were both on the Oklahoma on the UCF side, so we 100% got this right. But like, just the degrees to still how wrong we were about this game, right? Like, okay, we were right, but even then, we were still orders of magnitude wrong about this
Yeah.
game. It's crazy. I'm still. I can't believe it was that bad. Like, it was just over. It was over in the first
It,
quarter.
yeah. No, it was a searing. I mean, just right in and just they were done. I think you're being unfair to Oklahoma State. I look at this. I see 299 on the air and 293 on the ground for UCF. I think that's balanced by Oklahoma State. You're being kind of tough on them.
Perfectly balanced. Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right, noted for future reference. Following up on older notes, Jordan McLeod, 242 Apex versus Connecticut, now 142 for the season. And as a reminder, he is still undefeated. I brought this up last week. We'll be looking at Zach Arnett as USC defensive coordinator. He was let go, so that looks very possible. As would be very nice, the just fired, as we talked about, Andy Avalos from Boise State. I would take either of those guys. Arnett's worked in an air raid offense, so he'd probably be better. Um, this story just gets weirder and weirder. Now John Paddock, who again had a 46 apex at Ball State last season, he threw for 507 yards versus Indiana. Um, what kind of a horrible look is this for Mike New, the Ball State coach? It's like he did absolutely nothing for you, and then he goes to be the backup at Illinois, who was really struggling this season until this guy just got thrown in there. And his first start, he throws for 500 yards. My gosh. The next two we've kind of talked about ad nauseum already, between Tulane really just looking like garbage the last 2 weeks, and Air Force saying, "You think that was bad? Watch this." Um,
Yeah. So
yeah,
couple of fun things I'll say about this. So Illinois' quarterback from last year, uh, was it Tommy DeVito? Yeah,
yeah.
Tommy DeVito. I kept calling him Dane DeVito, but it's Tommy DeVito. Uh, he somehow, I don't think he was drafted. I think he was an unsigned free agent. He became a quarterback for the New York Giants. Got the start this week because every other quarterback on their depth chart, Daniel Jones is out for the season. Tyrod Taylor has a rib injury or something. I can't remember specifically what happened to him, but he's out. So he played quarterback this week for the New York Giants. So it obviously did not go well, but here's how not well it went. So they played the Dallas Cowboys, which, by the way, the Cowboys aren't particularly good, but they are really good at one thing, which is destroying bad teams. And yeah, that happened. So it was so bad that in the fourth quarter, the Dallas Cowboys said, okay, we're just going to pull Dak Prescott, our starter. We're going to put in our backup, Cooper Rush. And they went on Cooper Rush led the team to a touchdown drive in garbage time because it was like 41-10 or something at that point, just an absolute blowout. And then at the end of that drive, Cooper Rush had more passing yards than Tommy DeVito did. That is how bad it was. Now, to be fair, Tommy DeVito did come back and had more passing yards. He ended up with 86 passing yards through a garbage time touchdown drive against, I'd assume, walk-on defensive players from the Dallas Cowboys at that point, because they're not risking any starter at that point. And then he was able to beat Cooper Rush, the backup quarterback, by 20 yards. So, shout out for that literal definition of Pyrrhic victory. I don't understand how that's even possible, but I guess whoever Illinois' offensive coordinator or basically whoever the quarterback's coach is, he should get a raise or go somewhere else, because apparently he's really, really good at getting maximum performance out of bad quarterbacks. So shout out to that guy. But yeah,
It's Barry Lunny, the guy that was at UTSA when they had that awesome start.
Yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely crazy how well, how much of a transformation he's had with, like how he's able to make. And it's funny because last year we were like, oh, Tommy DeVito really held the Illinois back, and then now that he's an NFL starter somehow, I think this is like straight up the most legitimate, like straight up tanking thing I've ever seen an NFL team do. Which, to be fair, it's the right decision because you can get Caleb Williams or Drake May for New York, so 1,000% the right decision, but like just straight up outright tanking. Like you may as well just say we are attempting to lose every game. Like just say that it's less obvious. Also, you may so what is wrong with Connecticut as well? Like this team is. I mean, okay, they're not a good team, but like this is just really bad. I mean, to be fair, it's Tennessee and JMU, but it's rough. They're like this team looked competitive early on in the season. It's just not been competitive down the stretch here. And yeah, I will say you say Jordan McLeod is undefeated this year. That is correct, but his only defeat is to the NCAA Rules Committee. So that's
gosh, wow, that was mean.
Too soon. I know. Again, we want to see JMU in the thing. I think they're still pending that review. But yeah, that's their only loss to the season is to the Rules Committee.
Well, interesting. NCAA is undefeated in that venue until they go to court. Then they're winless. It's just this crazy thing. They're basically, you know what? They're the James Franklin of athletic organizations. They
play
can't
2 games a year in federal court. They lose them.
Yes. All right, new items. This was interesting. This is almost like kind of like I drew it up. Not that I thought that this was going to happen specifically, but remember before the season I said, hey, Joe Milton is an okay to good quarterback, but it's, when he doesn't play at Hendon Hooker level, it's getting a little dicey for the Tennessee offense. And he had a 103 apex. Not great for an SEC quarterback, but not like, hey, horrible to lose the game in most cases. But, that offense just it needs an awesome quarterback, and if the quarterback isn't awesome, it's going to get dicey at times. Um, Pretty interesting. I don't know. We kind of picked on Oklahoma State a lot. I think the answer was yeah. Do we rethink them after their absurd loss to UCF? I think so. That was so bad. Now it was in the rain, so things got a little bit out of control. But man, that was just absurd. So I don't know. I just that's the kind of game, and I really try not to be reactive to just one game, but that one just really just changes the my mind's picture of their trajectory. It just, I mean, it was so bad. What do you think?
I kind of think it's just it could. It's crazy how that happened, but I kind of think it's one of those games where you just say, well, it was just one of those games where everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and that's why that happened, right? So
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Um, all right. We didn't even talk about this because neither of us had this as a play. Navy beats UAB 31-6 in the battle of very shaky first year coaches. I want to point out that UAB got 6 against a Navy team that gave up a 191 apex to EJ Warner just 1 week earlier. So I'm not sure what went wrong there. And I did confirm Jacob Zeno was the quarterback. So someone really weird there. I I haven't seen anybody mention this, and I haven't read every article, even on the Athletic. But I don't know how on earth Texas A&M can let Ross Bjork, the idiot who extended Jimbo, I don't know how they can let him be near the hire of his replacement. They've got to get rid of this idiot. If you're that dumb to give him that extension, I don't know if you can't fire him right now and hire a successor, but if they actually let this dope actually, hire his successor, then they're even more stupid than we make them out to believe.
I think it's I was thinking about that. I think it would be interesting. There's no real way to do this, but it'd be interesting to find out who were the people that went up to him after he extended Jimbo back in I think it was 20. I'm not sure if it was 2020 or early 2021, late 2020, early 2020. I can't remember exactly when it was, but who went up of the boosters who went up to him and said, "Oh man, good job. That was really great.
Yeah.
We locked that guy in. Huge win for us." And then now have in the last couple of weeks called and it basically assembled a group of people to advocate for Jimbo's firing. Because again, this is the boosters doing this because the boosters are paying Ross Bjork did not fire Jimbo. The boosters fired Jimbo. That's literally how this goes now. They're running the athletic department. Like Ross Bjork cannot be like, "Hey guys, you guys have to write a $75 million check." No. They're like, "We're writing a $75 million check. You're firing this guy." So that's the point of it. And I kind of think in that way, I don't even know if he's going to even hire Jimbo. I think it's going to be like some guy's going to be like, "Hey, I know Urban Meyer. We can get him for this," or they're going to and I kind of think that the booster, because isn't that function what happened at Auburn? The boosters functionally ran the show there,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't
I'm
be
glad you
surprised
said
if they're
that.
gonna.
Yeah. That's exactly how I'm envisioning it. And let's be honest, I think no athletic department runs better in the whole nation than Auburn's, right?
Yeah, yeah. Auburn is well. I think we're gonna. I suspect we're gonna be talking about Auburn in the second half of this show. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't know who you go to. I think I've seen some people listed. I saw the Athletic had an article listing the successors, and again, there's a list of people that we like Lance Leipold, uh, um, the one from Duke, can't remember, Mike Elko from Duke.
Elko, yeah.
Elko, yeah. It's apparently he was an assistant with Jimbo Fisher. Names that we like, and names that if you and I were the AD at Texas A&M, we would sign them for smart contracts for maybe $10 million a year. Nothing insanely fancy, but something that if a lower contract that if he proves himself, we can hire him to a longer term extension. That's what you or I would do. But we're not Texas A&M, and the problem is
Yeah.
they are going to go find someone. I suspect it's probably going to be Urban Meyer. They are going to give him a ton of money. And because the thing is, there's an argument that they're going to make it be like, well, he's only at Kansas. He's not. And I actually I don't even think they're gonna get. So there's been rumblings of Dan Lanning. I mean, obviously, I don't want them to hire Dan Lanning, but I kind of feel like they're gonna say, well, he's in the Pac-12. It's not the same level of competition as the SEC. We need an SEC coach, and I think they're gonna say there will be a attempt at Urban Meyer. 100% they're gonna try Urban Meyer, and I think they are gonna try to throw an ungodly amount of money at someone. And like I kind of feel like it's like they can't even do Dan Lanning or any of the other ones because they'd be paying them too little money, if that makes sense. Like they have to have someone, and that person has to be making like $20 million a year. Like if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's like we can't hire Mike Elko for $10 million a year. That's too little, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I know that sounds like an insane thing, but it's like no. Our head coach has to make like 20 million a year or something.
A few things that you mentioned there. I think that if they went after Lanning, just the matchup of the Texas A&M bag against the Oregon bag would be something that would just be something to behold. Dan Lanning would never have to work a day again in his life. I mean, the whole Lanning family would just kind of be, I don't know, in the Warren Buffett kind of stratosphere of the world, or Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
I have a name of who should hire Jimbo's successor, and I don't know if you know who this is. Her name is Beth Getz. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
She is the interim athletic director at Iowa who said, guess what, Brian Ferentz, you're done. So I would trust her in
The
a
grown up
heartbeat.
in the
She gets
room.
it. Yeah, the one. The last thing, and then we'll move on from Texas A&M. I'm just wondering, I'm thinking that you've got all the bag and stuff that goes with that, but you got to think, these idiot boosters that are ruining everything, when they do something like this and they present this to Jimbo Fisher when he's hired, if you're I don't think this helps. I don't think this stupid move helped to get his replacement. Maybe I'm way out of line here, but I'm pretty comfortable saying there's a lot of people who are just saying, I want nothing to do with that place if this is kind of what they're going
Yeah.
to do.
I mean, if this is the thing, right? You're Dan Lanning. You're one earning like money is not particularly an issue for Oregon, right? Two, you're recruiting amazingly well. You have the entire West Coast to yourself, exception of USC, but whatever. You're able to recruit well in the West Coast. Now you get access to the Midwest because you're going to be in the Big Ten. There are only really three teams in the Big Ten, obviously exception of USC there and Washington potentially, but like there are not a lot of other good teams in the Big Ten. You have a relatively easy path to the college football playoff at a 12-team playoff, at which point you're a game away from a game or two away, which is basically a lucky bounce or two away from moving on to a round, like having a deep run in that. Why would you exchange that for going into the SEC and having to grind out wins against
No.
Texas, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia every other week? Like, that's not worth it. Like, oh, cool, I get to play Iowa. That sounds like fun. Like that, like it's like next year, like and Oregon and to lesser extent USC, like, oh, I get to play Iowa. That sounds fun. Like, there's no like I get to play Northwestern. That's awesome. Like, I get to play Northwestern and get $100 million a year. That sounds like fun. Sign me up for that. Like, that's the level of this year. Like, there is no reason why you'd want to jump into the SEC and have to constantly play. And it's not even so much the fact that the SEC is better. Like, well, it is. Like, I guess it's a tougher league, but there is like with the 8 or 9 game SEC schedule. There, like, okay, there's a couple of kind of doormat teams like Vanderbilt and maybe a team in like Mississippi State this year in an off year, but there is no like, oh, this week's a bye week. You get Northwestern,
Well,
you get Rutgers, you get Iowa potentially, right? You Iowa depending on how good they are that year.
you get
You could have
Maryland in November.
yeah, Illinois, right? Nebraska, which is improving but isn't there yet, right? There's a lot of functional bye weeks you can have in a Big Ten schedule. You don't have that in the SEC. Any of these teams, any week you could like a bye week is like basically a lower, easier week is Arkansas. Like that's not nothing, right? So no, if you have the option of not going to the SEC and earning the same amount of money, I don't think you should take. I think you should just stick with the Big Ten and be happy with that.
Yep, agree. And then finally, I don't know if I'm going to say this right because this is French. You're Canadian, so you probably know this better than me. I'm guessing it's Bon Retraite.
Yeah.
Brady Hoke, happy retirement. I will say also that the idiot that fired Rocky Long, their best coach in a long, long, long time, to bring up to promote Brady Hoke also needs to retire immediately too and be nowhere near this replacement hire as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's yeah. Brady Hoke is. I can't remember which one's Brady. Oh no, that's San Diego State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. It's that year's been it's been a very rough year for them as well. And again, it's funny because like 2 weeks ago we're like, man, a lot of people haven't been fired this year. Um,
Yeah.
big scandal year so far, but not a lot of just straight up firings for not being good at their job, and then now they like all happen this week, which I
Yeah.
think is interesting because it's like I think with the portal and stuff now, I think it makes sense to have someone kind of in place in kind of earlier December. And I think now's the right time to do that. I actually saw something interesting about that too, where someone theorized that like in the event of a 12-team playoff, we might have coaches that are coaching a team in the 12-team playoff get hired for other jobs. And they used the example of Brian Kelly, which I think Notre Dame would have made the 12-team playoff that year.
Yeah.
And then would he have said no to LSU? But then would LSU have waited? Like this is kind of a problem you have with the NFL teams too, right? It's really
Yep.
hard for an NFL team that's in the playoffs to have an assistant hired away somewhere as a head coach. This is the big thing with Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City because he's basically a success of basically a victim of Patrick Mahomes' success. Because basically every year they make a deep playoff run and he's trying to interview for head coaching jobs. He hasn't gotten one. But they've changed the rules now this year, and you had a couple more basically coordinators from playoff teams get hired. So that rule improved. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how college football makes adjustments for that because the problem is now if you've got that early portal, which I think basically opens after Thanksgiving. I think if I remember correctly, it's very soon after Thanksgiving. I remember correctly. So the transfer portal now. So if that's the case now, there's going to be incentive to get these people in place for then. But the thing is, I think if I'm ESPN in a year or two, when the next negotiation for all the bowl games comes up, I'm going to say get that out of there because it's directly no. I mean these bowl games,
Yeah.
some of these games are unwatchable now because you're like, oh well, here's the third string backup against this other team's third string backup now because all the quarterbacks have transferred, right? So like that was literally the game we saw last year between Kentucky and Iowa.
Yeah.
And Iowa won 21-0 is the way it should be. But this is the thing, right? This is going to be something that they're going to have to address. Like there's already chaos with that. Now you're just going to amplify that by throwing in a head coaching carousel season. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Also saw that from your Gators. I think that you probably didn't even know the name of their quarterback that started in the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. Did you?
No, I did not know.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't even the second
time.
stringer. Because the second stringer
Nope.
got arrested for having child porn.
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
great way to end part one.
Yes,
Happy part
yes,
one,
it
everybody.
is. Yes, we'll see you in part two. Yeah.